Okay, so to cast onto the silver reed, first you thread it just like the pass up is threaded. It has the same tension mechanism. And then you pull out your needles that you need. So if they're all the way pushed back in the A position, they won't knit. And if they're pushed out in D position, they'll knit unless some of the levers on the carriage are activated. But the D position is how you cast on.
Okay, so Hallie, tell us about these different needle positions. I'm going to show right here. There's a key right here.
So in A, they're inactive. B is where they usually are, so you can feel like them click into place when they are in B position. C position you don't usually use, but sometimes there's a carriage that will keep them in C position. And then in D position is where you cast on, and it's you can exclude needles by putting them in D position and also using the Russell levers, which are right here on the machine, and that'll be used for just different patterns.
Okay.
So to cast on the first needle, you just make like a knot, or not a knot, but yes, I guess, and you tie onto the first needle loosely, and for the rest of the needles, you E-wrap them, so it's like in the shape of a cursive E. So you'll go down and under the second needle, and then over the top, and then back down in the space between them. And it creates, you can see there, it creates like an E shape. And you want to make sure you do it far enough down, like past the latch hook, and then you'll keep going. You just want to make sure they're not on very tightly, otherwise it'll make it difficult to cast on. Once all of your needles that you want to use are E-wrapped on, then you take your yarn and you put it in the feeder. So it's this one, and then you will close the door. And just to cast on, this stitch style is set to O, and you want it on a lower stitch setting, so between 2 and 3 is good. And everything else on the carriage will be set up like it is now, which we'll go over later. And before you bring the carriage across, you just want to make sure that you push your wraps back close to this guard here. And then you can bring your carriage across, and that knits the first row. And then to continue going back, you want to do the same, bring the needles out to D position again, but make sure that you're keeping your knitting, your first row, back towards this guard here. That's just so that before you can get the weights on, that they don't slide off of the needles. And you'll go back, and that'll knit your next row, and you do that for 2 or 3 more courses until you can add your weights. So after you've done about 4 courses, you can add your weights. They're in this box that is on the top of the machine, and they unfold and they have little claws, and you just put them on either edge of your knitting on the very bottom for now, and they'll just, the little teeth will slide into course, and it'll give some weight when you're knitting. And then you can go back across, and this time you don't need to pull the needles out to D position. It will be a little tricky, but after that, then you can just knit.